Europe bits and the Tabata sessions, and they just laugh and shake their heads at me. And I said, yeah, we're trying to butter up. They do put us really under pressure. Then you've got your will presentation in week 10 to 12, and your will summary report. So what we're looking at, we're going into an organisation, we're going to put some evidence-based stuff up and work practice. How does that relate to the literature? And how does their coaching? Is it good philosophy? Do they respond? Are they autocratic? Things like that. How could they be better coaches? So you've got to critique them, and we'll be careful it's not criticise or critique. If you criticise, you start getting yourself into a bit of trouble with them. But it's this observation stuff. And we know from some of the subjects that we've learned through the past, how much is communication is non-verbal. It's 93%. So, you know, I did a Masters by Research. I interviewed head coaches when we were in Bubble. Because I was in the referees, I was able to do it, and I'd known most of them because I've worked with some of them. And Wayne Bennett said, well, I want to be a smart ass. He said, but I don't need a piece of paper to tell me someone's unhappy. I can see their face and I can tell them. I can tell them when they're fat and I can tell them when they're too slow. So they're the real deal coaches. And then if you look after the game, who are the coaches that the players hug and jump around in rugby league? And who are the ones that they just shake hands with? So it's a real kinship, you know, and it's through honesty, integrity and communication. Wayne Bennett never calls anybody into his office. It's always that casual conversation. Because if you call a meeting, what happens? You get preconceived ideas or, yeah. So, and that was one of the biggest things in the research, that casual conversations is the most gathering source. And that could be between you and your players or your athletes. It could be you and your other coaches. Because if I'm the high performance manager, they might tell me something that they'll tell my sports scientist or my strength coach or my conditioning coach. So again, they're forever having these conversations all day, learning about our athletes. And these are the questions, what Oliver said, and what Adam and James have said. They're the tips that we listen to, and we can ask them what's going on. Good? We're going to do our literacy, our ACA myth competency. So again, as Ollie said, most of us can lift. Anybody that's not real keen, a real good lifter? Yeah? Okay. And again, we can stay back longer. Like, I don't expect the tutorials to take hours and hours. If you know your stuff, why hang around? Yeah? But the other things that we're going to do is 1.2k time trials. Has anybody ran a 1.2k time trial? And actually marked it and put it together? So, in a textbook, does it tell you how you feel after 1.2, psychofunctional test? No. And if you want the athletes to do it, then we've got to feel it. You know? And even with your speed, you're still running at percentages of your 100 your 100 metres, aren't you? So everything about strength conditioning we measure, and it's measurable. So a lot of things with our programming, if we're programming off our 1RMs for strength, where 2 reps is 95% and 3 reps is 92%, and then 5 reps is 85%, if they're not getting their reps in, what's that telling you about? If you program 5 reps at 85%, you don't make it 5 reps, what's that saying?
It's too heavy.
Pardon?
It's too difficult. Too heavy or too difficult.
Okay, yeah. What else?
Limit.
Pardon?
Limit.
Limit. What else is it telling you about in physiological? They might be neuromuscular fatigue. They might be happy. And then you're programming it off last week, so every week we're testing by programming that. What about if they're getting 6 reps or 7 reps out? What's that telling you? They're getting stronger. They can't be neuromuscular fatigue. The program's working and they're happy. So all these things, the feedback we're getting just through programming is really important that we need to understand. And it saves you time. Because what happens when we test? They get nervous, hypertensive, and it takes a long time, and we don't have that time. The coach only gives us so much time to do our strength, our speed, our conditioning and stuff. So we're under the program time. Yep. So there's competencies, and then your article. So you'll write an article for us, we'll mark it, and then if you've ticked all the boxes and said, okay, you've done a good practical workshop, your presentation's okay, you've been able to do warm-ups and put the groups together, then we'll say, yeah, let's let you go through to the ACA and whatnot. But you have to get that from me or myself to recommend you as one of the two coaches. And the big thing is we're closely affiliated with the ACA, so we want you as level 2 coaches, you have to mentor a level 1, and then you've got to find someone else to mentor you as well. So it's giving back to the association. And my pretense is not knowing everything, but I know somebody that does, and I'm not scared to ask them, because you build a network. And there's so many different things that happen, you can't cover everything. So it's really important that those areas are covered. So if we look at the physiological characteristics of sport, and we're also looking at this general adaptation syndrome and the types of STEM training. So 4 physical qualities are what? Yeah, strength, speed, endurance, and flexibility. What's the sub-qualities of strength? Pardon? Speed, power. No, this is where we really got to understand this. So you've got control and stability, strength, endurance, max strength, hypertrophy, and they're all different training variables to get those outcomes, aren't they? And that's where we just want to go back this to level 1, where you should have picked all that up and understand that concept. And that's what I found in the last few things. And again, what's our sub-qualities of speed? What do you do, coach at the Bulldogs?
Acceleration, max speed, agility,
reaction,
yeah.
All different training variables to put those together. And then when they're in different positions, you know, you're like, I use soccer, the goalkeeper. What's his physiological characteristics? Reaction, power. Yeah, he's got to kick that ball, and he's got to have real anaerobic, isn't it? But if you've got a midfielder, they've got to be very aerobic. So even in the game, the physiological characteristics are different. So that's where we've really got to understand those games and talk to the athletes a bit about it. And we've got to talk to the head coach about it. Because we've got to mimic what the head coach wants. And then I've failed because I try to make my guys big and strong as possible. But with this new game, can we afford to have that? With limited turnarounds in rugby league, and also the speed of the game. So, you know, and now I'm going to do a PhD on that to see what these changes are. So, and I asked one of the guys at the Dragons, they've got a 232 squat. I said, is that going to make him a better footballer? He said, no, it's not. We've dropped him down to 82%, and he's built his 1.2 up, and his agility in that. So now we're looking at those qualities. It's not always about being bigger, stronger, and more powerful. And then you've got to look at your flexibility and your endurance. One of our biggest challenges there is coaching kids. But you don't get hurt, do you? Try not to. So do you need to warm up? Do you need more flexibility? And we've got to get that across to get into a good habit. I watched Abby do her warm-ups, and she's one of about 20 people that is meticulous way she warms up and cools down and things like that, you know. But as they get older, 18 bulletproof, 25 bulletproof, 28 bulletproof, about 32 bulletproof. Did you say something about recovery and stretching and things like that? Because that's $500,000 for starts again. So it's really important that they understand and how we can get our point across. Remember at Ensquist, we'd have the swimmers and we'd have the water polo players. What are they doing down there? We don't even touch the bottom. But you know, they're doing head beating and things like that, so we need to strengthen and we need to be able to transfer what we do in the gym onto the field, into the water or onto the paddock. So that's really important. So that's all those physiological characteristics we've got to put in there. But also the stakeholders that are involved in that decision making. So when you put your annual plan together, who have you talked to? You know, the high performance team. When I started, we had 4. Now we've got 13 or 15 high performance groups in the squad. So even again, and we've got leadership qualities and management qualities. So really important. And we look at our sport-specific skills and your opposition internal environment to get that sport performance. So when you're putting a program together, and even today in the gym, we want to look at some base assessments, functional movement screens, testing, look at their symmetry. So when does our functional movement screen start? When they come to training. As soon as they walk in, are you happy? Good, or turn your face, because it's not shown. And sort of make a joke out of it, but how we perceive ourselves as coaches as well. Having that caring nature, but what did you say about feeling good about yourself? And being able to have little jokes and things like that?
Just give you confidence.
Just give you confidence and stuff. Yeah, so it's really important. And then we apply these external layers: strength, speed, endurance, and flexibility. But what type of strength? You know, you might need a hypertrophy program, put a bit of weight on. Some other people might just want strength. You know, Abby might, her might, 53, 54 kilos, we don't want to put any size on it, but we want to get really strong. And then not only do we want to get it strong, but we want to get it very powerful. So there's two things, power and strength. And we've got to look at the dynamic strength index to make sure that we're covering those both areas. So it's really important that we put those together. And then what type of speed, what type of endurance and flexibility. And then we've got to assess and monitor the internal responses. So, you know, you're going to do a 1.2k time trial. How long is that going to take you to recover? And how do we put the program together? So we're monitoring it the whole time. And then you've got to look at these objective and subjective measures. So we've got GPS units that we use. We've got velocity, Gimel rep. We've got force plates, vault machines for all the subjective data. But we've got to look at that subjective data. What's happening with this? How's your sleep patterns going? You've got problems at home. You've got a fighting with the head coach. Things like that we've really got to be part of it. And then when we're prescribing it for our athletes, we've got this general adaptation syndrome. Okay? So first of all, we're going to do the 1.2. Or we're going to get tired. If we go too hard and push them too hard, they're going to drop off. And that fatigue turns into an injury or something like that. Okay? Then we're going to build up to get that adaptation, to get a new level, and then bounce it up and start to do that performance. So we've got to find ways to measure that. So, and then what we do need is that subjective data is to have honesty and be transparent and show respect. So it's really important. Anybody got any questions on that? Or we can follow it up a bit later as well. So these are the training physical qualities, and they're our sub-qualities, yeah? And their speed, and our endurance, and our flexibility. The training principles, these you've got to have in your head. Progressive overload, continual and gradual increase in training work efforts. Specificity, adaptations will occur that are specific to the training. If you want to train slow, you'll play slow. So that's where MAS comes into it. We're working above maximum aerobic speed. And the other factor that we're working when we're working in super maximal at 120%, we're touching base on that anaerobic system. Remember when we did our first 400, you thought your bum was going to drop through your legs? So what happens when we're doing that super maximal aerobic training is working out oxidative system, not even our anaerobic system. So we're not touching base. Cool. Variety, so there has to be variety, not only for the muscles and the body, but also the mind. If you go out there to do the same sets, the same reps, then you're not going to get any variety out of it. So it's really important that we understand that. And that individualisation. So we've had injuries, we've got training age. Some people have been training for 10 years, some people have been training for 2 years. So again, you've got to look at that area where they're at, and you've got to know their athletes. And if you're looking after 35 athletes, you've got to know 35 individual characteristics. So it's really important. And you might be able to keep hold of it, but you, with your team, you make sure that you're touching base with everybody all the time. And there's platforms there for you and your teams. If they've got Smartabase, they put in wellnesses every day. And you've got to check it. On the way here, I had The referee has been out for a couple of weeks. He started doing Bulgarian squats, and we made him swim. So he's flagged, and then all that, asked him if he's okay, just to show that they care. Because a lot of the times we don't reply to them, so they said, what's the use of telling them, put it in. So we've got to justify it. Okay, then we've got the recovery and adaptation, the last slide, and reversibility. If you don't use it, you lose it. So we've done the holidays for 6 weeks, we come back, we start squatting, and then after your first session, you're walking around like Douglas Fader because of the dogs. So we've got to be careful that we don't put something new into the program all the time. And that'll be another conversation in strength. And then we'll look at the training variables. Doesn't matter if you're doing strength, speed, endurance, or flexibility, we've got to put these training variables in. What type of training, how often, what's the intensity, what volume, and what duration. Cool? So as simple as it is, just that progressive overload. Some are going faster than others, but we know, we should have been told when we were doing that aerobic, if we got that, take that one back. If we're doing those grids, MAS grids, yeah, and they've got an MAS of 4 metres per second, cool, yep, and we've got 15 seconds, and they're getting there in 13, what's that telling us? Pardon? They're getting there in 13 seconds, what's that telling you? They've got another 8 metres in there, 2 seconds. So let's bump it up a bit. We'll bump it up by 10%. Yeah, if they're not getting there in that time, well, we can correct it straight away. But that's how we're going to measure it and how we're going to get better. Week 1's going to be 100%. We're doing 2 sets of 5, and it's going to take, that's 60 metres because 15 seconds, 4 times 15, 60. And we want about 70% here, so we might go around 40, and that's 60, and that's 40. So that's 200 metres a lap, isn't it? So if we do that for 5 minutes, we're going to get 1,000 metres. And then if we have a minute rest after it and do it again, we're going to get 2,000 metres. And we're going to fit that in 12 minutes. See how we're measuring everything and putting the program together? And that's going to help us a lot. And then the progression then, if we're playing team sports, is maybe build that up by 10%. So next week that'll be 66 metres. So we're putting distance on there as well. So that's that progressive overlap. Cool? And then what we look at there is strength theory. So what types of strength? So control and stability is the ability to control and stabilise the muscles and joints. Movement and limit unwanted movement. So we do a lot of bilateral stuff, but we're not kangaroos, are we? You know, so we need to put unilateral stuff in our programs and being able to move and stabilise and proprioception on one leg. And then what dominantly, right foot dominant, soccer player. Yep. So that's taken a lot, the left leg takes a lot of the load, that's on the pivot, you know, that time. So when we're doing our functional movement screens, we're going to look at that symmetry and look at if there's any asymmetry, something different from the other, and maybe do some work on it. So, and we're looking at that all the time. So when they come to train and we're watching them, when they're stretching, they're wrenching, is there something wrong with it? So we've got to make sure that we keep that. And talk to our medical team when they do their screenings and know that there's differences and problems. Cool. And then we've got hypertrophy and general strength. You know, if we want to do that, there's a variety. The training variables change from general hypertrophy, from the general strength of control and stability, the hypertrophy and general strength. So we're doing more volume and higher intensity. And then you've got your maximal strength. Okay, and then also we're looking at this power and your speed strength and the ability to generate high levels of force as much as possible. Anybody used to use or have used push bands or gym wear? You use it?
Yeah, we did this in strength and conditioning.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember the force velocity curve? Okay, so we've got that force velocity curve here, and we've got the different types of strength. We've got speed, strength, speed, and we're looking at percentages of where we're at. So we can start at 40%, isn't it? We start looking at power, and we're measuring the velocity. So if we look at this force velocity curve, you've got, that's a 1 rm, and the velocity's going down the bottom here. There's no speed at all, because it's really slow. But we're trying to activate those fast twitch muscle fibers up. So it's that intent when we're lifting. Okay, and then here we've got no weight at all, but it's a high velocity. Yep, and that's where we do that PAP, isn't it? Post-activation potentiation. So you're lifting the heavy weight, and then you go and do box jumps or horizontal jumps. You know, to try to create more of that, activate those fast twitch muscle fibers. And what we're trying to do, and a lot of times what happens, we try to push that force curve there. So start moving that bar there. But we've got to do it with intent. So instead of just lifting the bar up, we're trying to drive it off the floor. So when Abby does squats, the bar's coming off the top of her shoulders. And if she doesn't get over 1 metre per second for her 1 rm, then she might be neuromuscular fatigue. So we're measuring that all the time. And now, a lot of weights programs are designed around their speed contraction. Yeah, concentric contraction. Does that sound okay?
We'll get the gym aware out in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, so we'll start testing with that stuff and just get more of it on. So we're prescribing the strength at different goals, so max reps, 1 rm is shown here. Yep. Okay, hypertrophy. So we know that our goal is hypertrophy, and we want to be working between 67 and 85% and 6 to 12 reps. Yep. So that's program for that. And here's some other prescribing for the athletes. The actual goals. So goals for the reps is less than 6 or equal to. Sets 2 to 6. Power. All these different training variables for these. So when you want to put your programs on, that's what we're looking at. Cool. So when we looked at this training variable for speed, same thing. So this is a pre-season general prep for a part-time team. We know that we do speed, aerobic conditioning and skills on Tuesdays. And then on Thursdays we do speed, but we're doing speed, agility and quickness, acceleration and anaerobic conditioning, and we do skills. Week 1, our intensity with our speed, because it's a high force, we don't want to go too fast. If we've had 6 or 7 weeks off, and you're going, because it's a high force activity, sprinting, so we're looking around 70-75%. Our aerobic capacity, we test and work on 100% MAS to see where they're at. Our sets and reps for the aerobic side of things are there, 2 to 5 with 2 minutes recovery. And then our anaerobic, we might be doing 70% at 6 reps after doing a 30-second time trial. So we've got 30-second time trials, that's our power phase for anaerobic, isn't it? So if we did 30 seconds, and we did 210 metres, that equals 7 metres per second, anaerobic threshold. Yep. So we'll start working on that, and we're working at 70% of that, and we're doing 6 reps. So we're going to build up that capacity. So that's it like that? Cool. And we're going to do that over in the park over here. If we look at the football field, that's there. We've got a group there, 3 groups. And we work out those speeds, all different. We said 200 metres. We can go 210, 200, and we can go 190 and work all those different ones. That's individualised because it's progressive overload, and that might be the 3 groups that we're putting in. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. And 1's the biggest one, 2, and then 3 drops up here again. This more distance. And we go 2 to 1 recovery. Yep. Does that sound okay? And then they'll just go 1 will go, 28 to 9:30, 2 will go, 28 to 9:30, 3 will go, 28 to 9:30, then 1 starts again. So that's how you do the program. And if they're getting there again, like this one over there, if they're getting there in 28 seconds, what's that coming at? If you jump up to 75%, and you might go 6 to 8 reps. So you're building up your capacity as you go up, and it's all variation. Sound okay? So we go back to the strength theory now, is the stages for strength development. So up until level 1, we're starting barbell training, and the advance goes right through to here now, those areas there. So introduction to maximal strength, advanced maximal strength, and just the elite maximal strength training, and where we're going to those. And same for the outer development. So we'll keep working on those into all components. So that's the pathway to develop the different types of strength. Just get that stability and control, progress the barbell training, and then build further into the hex barbells. What's our limiting factor for their progression? Technique. If they don't have good technique, then they're going to be using the joints instead of the muscles. Yeah, and using the lower muscles. So we need to be able to drive that continued force. And that means we're going to coach. So we're not even going to jump in with them, we're going to coach them, making sure they're doing okay. And we're trying to see it through. Okay? Any questions? All good? You want to have a bit of a break?